All right, I gotta come clean. I've eaten pretty poor these last few weeks. Between pool parties, birthday parties, and including my own, my body is feeling like it needs some love. And that's where this comes in. Loaded with protein, packed with smoky flavor, and engineered from the ground up to be little to no effort to make. This is Smoky Southwest dense bean salad. Let's get into what you're gonna need. For the salad, we're doing black beans, pinto beans, and cannellini beans. Fresh or frozen corn kernels work. Red bell pepper, poblano pepper, green onions, red onion, cilantro, red cabbage, avocado, toasted pepitas, and some seasonings. For the smoky chipotle lime dressing, we're doing olive oil, fresh lime juice, apple cider vinegar, maple syrup, Dijon mustard, chipotle pepper and adobo, along with some of the sauce, garlic, and finally some seasonings. All right, let's start with our prep, beginning with a red bell pepper. So I want to show you this great cutting trick. I hold the bell pepper upside down, then slice it down the seams. From here, you can simply just pull it apart, leaving the seeds and stem intact. Now you can simply just discard that part. We're simply gonna slice these, but then I thought about it a bit and figured we're gonna be eating this salad with a spoon, which is unusual. So we're gonna actually dice it, and try to specifically dice it the same size as like the beans or smaller, so you can get everything on a spoonful. And next up, the poblano pepper. Once again, simply dicing it. Moving on to our green onions. These, we're simply gonna give them a nice thin slice, then set them aside for later. Next up is our red onion. Here, we're doing a fine dice as well. Nothing fancy, because we're moving everything right along. There's a lot of chopping in this recipe. Here's our cilantro, which is gonna add some nice freshness. And boom, things are about to slow down because we're breaking out the red cabbage. We're using probably like a eighth of this cabbage. Like seriously, not a whole lot. But I have a ton of recipes for cabbage, so don't let it go to waste. And they last forever. Therefore, makeitdairyfree.com. I originally started cutting this cabbage into strips, and then I realized we're going to run into the same problem I thought about earlier. We need to eat this salad with a spoon. Although it's just my hands, you can kind of see me recalculating here, saying to myself, I think I need to figure out a way to cube this up. I thought of this later, but you could also shred it, kind of like you would do like coleslaw, you know? I have this method I've shown before in one of my videos where you basically take a Y peeler and you just drag it along the cabbage and get these nice thin strips very easily. Now for our limes, we're gonna slice those in half and set them aside. From here, I got this giant bulb of garlic that looks tempting, but we're only gonna be using one clove. I know, disappointing. You'll see me regret that decision a little later on in the video. And then there's this, an avocado. Full transparency, this never actually makes it into the salad. I ended up eating it way before I finished filming this recipe. No regrets, just a hunger, and we adapt. Let's pull together our seasoning mix. In a small bowl, we're adding smoked paprika, cumin, onion powder, salt, and black pepper. Give that a whisk at some point, and yeah, so just sit it off to the side. Okay, so we're supposed to be moving on to the dressing, but about this time I'm realizing that if someone doesn't have an immersion blender or a small blender, they may be wondering, how exactly do I go about making the dressing? So before we get to that part, I brought the cutting board back out. One, to address the mistake of not adding more garlic. Yep, that's me, chopping up more garlic. Second, it was to chop up the chipotle pepper by hand, you know, so this way, if you just have a whisk to work with, you can pretty much just toss it in a cup with the rest of the ingredients I'm about to show you, and boom, you can make the dressing with no problem. But before we hop into the dressing, we're gonna break out a cast iron skillet. We're gonna heat this skillet over medium-high heat, and if your cast iron is well seasoned, you won't have to add any oil. Then we're gonna dump our corn right in. And yes, if you're not using a cast iron, you 100% can still make your corn look like what this is going to look like, you can still make your corn look awesome and taste awesome. Anyway, We're going to cook this for something between 6 to 8 minutes, stirring occasionally. Really what we're looking for is just a little color to get on each side, some charring per se, a little bit of brown, but also ever so slightly getting past that. I'll even give you a close-up here. This way you can see exactly what you're going for. You achieve this by letting the corn sit about 1 to 2 minutes before you stir and stir again. From here, we're going to remove our corn, add it into a bowl, and set it aside to cool down. Then, with our skillet still hot, but over medium heat, we're going to add in our pepitas so we can toast them. Recently, my friend asked me, why would you even try toasting your pepitas? Like, what's the point? So I tried to explain it to him, and I could see him staring blankly at me, and the words are just like over his head. I tried to use another analogy, and that wasn't working either. So I let him taste it, and that's when the light bulb went off. You know, the We're gonna take these out, set them aside with the corn, and move on to making our dressing. For the dressing, in a mason jar or small bowl, we're going to add olive oil, lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, maple syrup, Dijon mustard, the chopped chipotle pepper with some adobo sauce, our few cloves of garlic, and some spices. And similar to how I was mentioning earlier, if you don't have a blender, you can simply just whisk this together. It will come out really creamy. And then option 2, if you do have a blender, small blender or immersion blender, this would be the method I prefer, as it's like a pure, smooth texture. From here, we are pretty much done. We will sit our dressing aside, then it's time to bring the salad together. I love this salad because there's no real preparation for the proteins. We're using canned black beans, pinto beans, and cannellini beans. Once those are in, we could bring the rest of our prepped ingredients and dump them right into the bowl. Beans are the perfect reset button for the digestive system. They're loaded with a ton of prebiotic fiber, which basically feeds the good bacteria in your gut, and soluble fiber to help lower your cholesterol. Plus, you got all that plant-based protein, you know? It helps keep the blood sugar stable. So while I feel like this tastes like a cheat day, it actually works behind the scenes to curb cravings, reduce inflammation, and just repair stuff. I pour the dressing all over this stuff, and I toss it, and then I pour some more at some point, and then toss some more. As a big tip, cover and refrigerate this for about 30 minutes before serving. Beans need that resting time to soak up all that citrus and smoky flavor. Trust me, it's kitchen science, people. Lastly, if you don't give in to temptation like I did, you can use that avocado in the actual recipe. You know, fold that bad boy in there. Don't look at me like that, I couldn't help myself. This full recipe is linked in the description, or head right on over to my website, makeitdairyfree.com. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best. Until next time, believe in good. Peace.